If I hadn't read some of the very best books in March, it would have been a very terrible month. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So happy that you could make it. I read some absolutely phenomenal things in March, which I'm so happy about because March itself was rough. Let me tell you, rough. You can probably hear in my voice. If you've been on this channel for a little bit or you've seen my other videos, my voice does not normally sound like this. I got very sick in March and it is just hanging on to me, you guys. Like, it will not go away. It's been weeks. And I am just now today, honestly feeling good enough to do anything. So I got ready for the first time. I was like, I need to get some filming done. I need to do it no matter what my voice sounds like. So bear with me. But I am so thankful that I read so many good things in March that kind of made up for how it ended. I read 6 books in March and I DNF'd 1. I read 3,493 pages and my average star rating was 4.15. So you know you're in for a lot of really good juicy details about some fantastic books that I read. Unfortunately, a lot of these books I don't own in physical copy. I've kind of gone on like a book buying ban unless it's like a book that I'm so absolutely obsessed with, and honestly pretty obsessed with a lot of these, but I need to wait until I have like a good amount of books I need to go get and I'll just go get them all at one time. I've been really good about not overbuying books, just getting them on my Kindle or getting them on audiobook and not buying like 3 to 4 different copies of books. So I'm very proud of myself, but who knows about next month, you know what I'm saying? The first book that I read in March was The Favorites by Layne Fargo. A few girls that I follow on Book Talk really raved about this. It was a new release, I think, in January. And I was like, honestly, I need a good audiobook to listen to. And it was so addicting. I think I listened to this in a total of like 2 sittings, maybe like 2 days at different times during the day. I could not put it down. It was so good. This was the very first book I've ever read that kind of had like a documentary style. Well, no, I take that back. I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo like a few years ago. It was very similar to that, but I liked it so much more. It's really marketed as an epic love story. So I'm gonna stop you right there. I would not market it as an epic love story. I think that the people who have read it going into it thinking that it's some grand romance, think Emily Henry, think Abby Jimenez, that's kind of how it was marketed, but it does not read like that at all. It's like a documentary style, what's really the truth behind this big grand story. And it really, like, yes, there's romance, like, yes, you're following an FMC and an MMC that are in love with each other, but it's not like the ending and the actual like relationship you're expecting. So go into it more thinking like lit fic, more like just drama. Kind of the drama reminded me of Magnolia Parks in the way of like, yes, this is a romance, but it's a lot more than the romance. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes that kind of make the bulk of the story what it is. The actual synopsis for it says, to the world they were a scandal, to each other an obsession, an epic love story set in the sparkling savage sphere of elite figure skating, starring a woman determined to carve her own path on and off the ice. This isn't a spoiler, but basically it starts off with all of these like allegations, all of these like news reports about Katarina Shaw, who's our FMC, and something that happens on the ice with her partner. She's a professional ice dancer, and her partner Heath Rocha is who we're also following. He's the MMC, and you kind of just get from beginning to end their story, and they end up being Olympians. That's not, you know, that's on the title, like in the synopsis of the book. But essentially they're pro athletes, but also together. And obviously there's a lot of complications with that, but just so many things happen. And essentially a documentary is being made like within the story, very meta. A documentary is being made about Katarina Shaw, and she finally like breaks her silence after 10 years and is willing to share what really happened after all of these like people came after her and said that she did XYZ. She's like, no, let me actually tell my story. So this book kind of goes back and forth between Katarina and her sharing the whole thing, and then what the news reporters had said about that exact same thing and like what they thought happened or what they were like posting happened. It was so good. The drama was crazy. There were so many twists and turns I didn't expect, but overall it was just really a phenomenal read. I loved it so much. I think I ended up rating it 4.5. It bounces back and forth in my head between a 4 and a 4.5. The only reason it's not a 5 is because I didn't rock with the ending a ton, really just the very ending, but I respected the ending. Like, I don't necessarily know if it could have ended any other way, and it was satisfying, but I don't really know how to explain it. It's like, I really try to be careful with my 5 stars, obviously. And it wasn't necessarily a 5-star read, but it was really close. And that was like honestly the case for a lot of the books that I read this month. I honestly just loved it so much, and I highly recommend if you need just something for like a change of pace. I was in the middle, I'm going to start talking about Red Rising in a minute, obviously, because that's like what I've been in the thick of. And I finished like the original trilogy in March. And it was just a really, really good change of pace, palette cleanser, totally different than what I have been reading for a long time. I've really been making my way over into literary fiction and really enjoying it every time that I read it. But I really enjoyed just the drama aspect of this. Like it literally, like I was so enthralled the whole time and I just loved it. So if you're looking for something that like you really just need as a palette cleanser, something that's going to be totally different than what you've read in a long time, this is it. Next up, I read Morningstar, which is the third book in the original Red Rising trilogy. There are 3 other books. I have an entire video posted about my entire reading vlog of this book, Golden Sun, Red Rising. That is up on my channel, so I'm not going to harp on this too much because I gave all of my thoughts over in that video. I think it's called just Red Rising Reading Vlog. It was posted right before this. So I'm not going to go on and on and on, but this is a 5-star book. It's a 5-star series. It's absolutely incredible. I'm actually like 60% of the way through of the last book that's out right now called Lightbringer. And I'm absolutely gnawing at the bars of my enclosure to get the last book in the series, which isn't supposed to publish for more than another year at least. Anyways, prayers for that because it's never fun to have one more book waiting after you have been absolutely destroyed and demolished by a series that actually makes you feel like you will never read anything as good. You know what I'm saying? This book itself was the only 5-star in the first original trilogy. The other 2 were 4.5. Can I tell you why? No. It's just a feeling. I don't know how to explain it. And it has been just like the way that this series just lives inside my brain, like Throne of Glass and ACOTAR, like it just like stays there. It just stays inside your brain at all times. I'm always thinking about it. I'm so deeply connected with the characters. If I'm not like, this is my first month. March was the first month I've ever really dove into the sci-fi realm. I'm going to talk about another sci-fi book that I read also. I'm new to the whole sci-fi thing. Like this was my very first like sci-fi series and I have not found it. Like there's been some issues like where I'm like, wait, like where am I? Having to like really like dive back in and figure out like where on the map we actually are, like what's actually going on. So it is a little bit harder to follow at times, but for being a first-time sci-fi reader, I have enjoyed it so much. And if you're like nervous and you don't really know if you could fit into like the sci-fi world, if you're coming from fantasy, romantasy, romance, any of those, I really, really think that you have a place here. And I really, really like truly deeply enjoyed it. And so I highly recommend, and I also highly recommend just going and checking out that video because I talk a lot, well, it does have spoilers, so you're gonna have to be careful. But if you choose to read it, this is me really, really urging you to read it. If you choose to read it and you want to go watch my spoiler video, that is what that whole YouTube video is about and what it's for, to kind of like discuss my thoughts as a first-time sci-fi reader. And I just loved every second of it. So really, really, really recommend. And I hope that you read this and join in the actual glory and pain that is Pierce Brown's writing. The next book I read was that little sci-fi standalone I've talked about a little bit on my like social media, not on here yet, but it's called Project Hail Mary. Everybody in my comments on TikTok was like, if you like Red Rising, you're gonna love Project Hail Mary. It's such a good like sci-fi standalone. And they were so correct. I actually filmed pretty much an entire reading vlog for this book. That'll be up next, I believe. I just haven't edited it yet, but I did a trip to DC and I basically wanted to see how much on a trip could I read. And I ended up basically finishing that whole book on that trip. So it's essentially a Project Hail Mary reading vlog. I didn't go into it deciding to do that, but it kind of just ended up that way. I actually originally started a different book, which I'm going to talk about next, that I DNF'd, and then I had to like stop that. So if I hadn't started with that original book, I would have for sure finished Project Hail Mary in that vlog. But overall, that will come, so you'll get a lot of my thoughts on Project Hail Mary. This book was a 4.5 also. The only reason it wasn't 5 was because, again, just something about the ending wasn't my favorite. There was like a little teeny tiny thing that like bothered me, but other than that, literally this book was perfection. It made me feel so many things. I don't want to give away too many spoilers. There's really not a way to give a full synopsis of this book of like how I actually felt about it without you just going and reading it. I feel like the more blind you go in, the better. The only way that I will actually like kind of kickstart you in that direction if you're wanting to read it is, yes, it's sci-fi, but even more so than Red Rising, it was the easiest thing ever to follow along with. Essentially, you're following a high school teacher, and I feel like he kind of talks like a teacher in it. And they were talking about concepts in like relativity in time and like all these things in space, like stuff that my little tiny blonde brain would never be able to understand. And I was reading it feeling like I was a actual expert in those fields because of the way that it was explained in the book. I was never confused. It was so well written. It's by Andy Weir. I don't think I said that. He's also written The Martian, which is another really popular one. I haven't read that yet. And this is actually set to be a film. I think it's already filmed. I think Ryan Gosling is the star. Pretty sure it comes out in a year from now. I think it's March 2026, which is so far away. Why is everything so far away? But this book was honestly, like, when I don't ever think that I've used the words cute and sci-fi together in the same sentence, but this was the cutest sci-fi book ever. It was so cute. Like, it made me like feel so many things. It was so much better than I ever expected it to be. I was like, this is gonna be boring, whatever. Not boring. So good. So if you want like a standalone little moment, kind of similar to The Favorites, it's totally different than, it's not similar to The Favorites, but in a way of if you want like a little palate cleanser that's totally different, this is it also. It was so good. I truly loved it. I did. The book that I DNF'd was Blood of Hercules by Jasmine Mass, I think was her name. I really try hard not to DNF books. I'm like, okay. I try to give a book the benefit of the doubt until I absolutely cannot anymore. My goal was to finish reading an entire book on that DC trip, which you'll see when I post that video. I started reading it while I was on the plane going there. And I was like, okay, like it's cute. I'd seen a lot of people give it 5 stars. And I was like, okay, cool. They said it was so funny. Said it was so good. Like they loved it so much. Like they wanted more people to be talking about it. And I was like, honestly, cool. With a last name like Mass, it's gotta be perfect, right? By no means did I think it was terrible. I do think that like when it basically is marketed as like a classic romantasy, but like think Percy Jackson romantasy, like very heavy on like the Greek gods, like things going on with like the Spartans is really cool. Like I love the concept of it, but then the romantasy part of it, there's a right way to do romantasy and there's a wrong way. Now this is kind of a soft DNF. I do think I could go back to try and see it through, but like the beginnings of it where you're like, I got 165 pages of the way through. That was more than 1/4 of the book. And I still had no idea who the MMC was. It literally could have been anybody. It could have been anybody. Like there was no telling. The whole first part of the story was kind of this girl's backstory and how classic, like she didn't know that she was like part of, you know, the god's line. And that's like, it's literally called Blood of Hercules. And on the back it says, I am Hercules. So I never even got to that part. So that's not a spoiler. But like when I read that, I was like, I didn't even know that yet. It was on the back. Basically, like, you know, it's the classic and you get like her whole childhood. And her childhood was actually really interesting to read about. And that was what really drew me in. Like the first few chapters, you get all of this backstory about her and it was like really cool. And then it was like just this total switch up of story. You know, she's a lot older. We like are seeing like what's happening. And then you kind of get introduced to who I think 165 pages in. Like, I think you might be like the love interest, but I can't tell. And then all of a sudden, a million of like the most cringy lines. Like if a male said these to me in real life, like I would actually like hit them and run away. Like there's no shot that I would ever be like attracted to this person. Like it was so cringe out. Like I read one scene of them together and I was like, nope, I cannot do this. Like it was that bad. And I was like, okay, like, am I just being like hyper judgmental? And I might have been, like, I might go back and honestly, like, if that's the only time that it's like that, that's fine. But it was like so intensely graphic for no reason. And I still wasn't even sure that that was who the male main character was. I don't know. I just very much was like, this may not be for me. Not to mention, everyone that I heard talk about it was like, this is so funny. This is such a good book. It's so funny. It was like, not funny. Like it was trying super hard to be funny. And that's where it was like, it was just weird. It was like, you could see, so there's a lot of like parentheses, like she used parentheses to kind of like talk about what the main girl was really thinking in her head. And it was like, just so middle school. And it's not YA, but it read like her mind really read like Arrested Development. Like she's still in 6th grade. Like these, I don't know, guys. Like it was just not for me. Maybe one day I'll pick it up. And you know what? If you've read it and I need to give it another chance or you felt this way and then it turned around for you, let me know because I really couldn't stand it. I was like, I'm 165 pages in. I almost 0 like stakes in this. Like I don't care. And so that's when I started Project Hail Mary, which was 100 times better. So I was like, okay. And it was actually funny and like cute and wasn't trying to be, if you know what I'm saying. Then next I dove headfirst into the second part of the Red Rising saga, which is Iron Gold, Dark Age, and then I'm currently reading Lightbringer, so that won't be talked about until my April video, or if I choose to do like a full Lightbringer video, we'll see. Now I'm going to start this off by saying, again, I don't have the full picture of what's going on, okay? I did so far have enjoyed, that didn't make sense. So far, I've enjoyed the first half of the saga so much more. Like Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star are like untouchable. Iron Gold and Dark Age were both really good. Like the writing is really, really good. But it is so drastically different than the first three that it takes a lot of adjustment. There's also a lot more war. There's a lot more sci-fi aspects of it, which is fantastic. But it was harder for me to get through. It's not like you're reading and you're like, oh, I'm like really into this. It's you're reading and you're like, I'm getting so much information. But the cool thing about Pierce Brown, similar to Brandon Sanderson when I read Mistborn, because the first two books of Mistborn were like a 3-star, 3.5 star for me. But the payoff was so incredible in Hero of Ages that it made the first two make a lot of sense to me. That's kind of what's going on with Iron Gold, Dark Age, and Lightbringer. I think once I read Lightbringer and I can like actually look back at everything and be like, oh, this adds up so much. And that's kind of what everybody has said so far. I am by no means saying it's not worth it to keep going in the series. I think absolutely yes, especially if you love sci-fi, if you love like really, really having an in-depth world and story to get to know. It's so, so good. Iron Gold and Dark Age, I gave 3.5 stars only because they were so much harder for me to follow along. I had a lot more questions. I think I was supposed to, but it was just harder. I switched back and forth between audiobook and physical, whereas the first 3 books, I basically just did physical. And the reason I did that was because audiobook really helps me get through those thicker parts of the book where I'm like, okay, where are we going? Like I can multitask while I'm doing it because I'm like, what is happening? One of the biggest drawbacks for me was just the fact that like all of the characters are dispersed in Iron Gold. When you first start out and you're getting 3 new perspectives that you never got before. Because at first we were just in the main male character's viewpoint for the first 3 books. And I loved that perspective. Then Iron Gold is like 10 years later and it's in like 4 different perspectives total of like Darrow's like the main character, but also like 3 new perspectives. I think it was 3, it might've just been 2. But you're getting a ton of new perspectives, which was totally fine, but it was a big adjustment. And I loved like the new perspectives once I got to know them. But another weird thing is you're kind of like seeing the characters you've known and loved this whole time through the eyes of a lot of different people. So you're getting a lot of different perspectives, which is great because then you don't have necessarily a ton of unreliable narrators because you're getting a viewpoint of everybody from the whole side, like all the sides of the story, which is great. But it can be a little bit overwhelming when like everything you've always thought about people, you're like, wait, like what's going on? Also locationally, all of the characters were like in vastly different places. And because it's in space and you don't really understand, like if somebody were to tell me, oh, this person's in LA, this person's in Vermont, and this person's in Montana, I'd be like, okay, I can picture that, right? This freaking person's in Phobos, this person's in their ship Pandora, and then this person is on Mars, and then this person is like scouring through South Africa on Earth, and I'm like in where are they? You know what I mean? Like it was really hard to like picture. So then all of a sudden 2 people would be in the same place at the same time. And I'm like, how are those 2 people in the same place? I thought this person was here. And then you find out that it's because that planet is right next to this one. But like, how am I supposed to know that? Yes, there's a map, but like I'm not looking at the map every second. So that was a little bit hard for me, but not impossible. I am so committed to the Red Rising saga and I love it. So like I truly deeply love it. It's like the first part and the second part, like especially once I finish it, I think I'll have a grand picture of the payoff of all of it. And also just Iron Gold and Dark Age were a lot darker, a lot more, I mean the first 3 were dark, but these 3 are a lot darker in the terms of like you're dealing with real war and you're seeing like what war does to people and like the death that comes with that, and you're mourning a lot of beloved characters. So it was just like a lot going on in those 2 books, but I really, really loved them, and I'm halfway through Lightbringer now, so I'm very hopeful that I'm gonna get the payoff that it needs, and then also especially when Red God comes out next summer, hopefully next summer, the real like payoff, you'll get to see all the work that was put into everything. So by no means take this as I didn't like it. It just was totally different. As a new sci-fi reader, it's a little harder to follow, which didn't necessarily make it bad by any means. I really liked it. Still a 3.5, you know. And there were parts that were 5-star, you know what I mean? It's been a little harder to follow, if that makes sense. But Lightbringer so far has been so much easier, and I'm enjoying it a lot more, so. And then, of course, I ended the month by just a very nice, cozy, fun Book Lovers by Emily Henry reread. I read this 2 years ago, loved it then, loved it even more now. It was so cute, so fun. Emily Henry just does it right every time. She has a new book coming out by the time this video is posted, within a couple weeks, and I am just so excited about that. And so I needed a little Emily Henry refresh in my brain. Book Lovers is my second favorite book of hers. My favorite is Beach Read and then Book Lovers. Book Lovers is just so cute. And I loved it. I needed a little cozy, fun romance to read after all the heavy sci-fi drama that I read the rest of the month. This is actually my copy of Book Lovers that I created. If you don't know, I have a little Etsy shop, and it's actually like, it's my goal this year to kind of be doing my small shop and doing book content full time by the end of the year. And so a really cool way that you can support me is I have like a bookbinding shop, and I reread Book Lovers this month, obviously. So I was just gonna show you my little Book Lovers like rebind. But yeah, like the end pages are so cute. And I design all these myself, and I make the book cloths myself, and I do everything myself. And I actually have an entire Emily Henry set, which is actually, I think this is my favorite set I've ever made. I have Throne of Glass, Emily Henry. I'm working on Red Rising that will hopefully be done this coming month, because I have a few people wanting to commission me for that. I'm working on Fourth Wing. I have the first 4 Magnolia Parks books, and I do a ton of commission work too. So if you ever wanted to reach out to have a book rebound, love to do that for you. And I have a lot of stickers, bookmarks for like all the series you guys have heard me talk about. I have stickers and bookmarks that I've created for those series. So if you're a big fan of those things, then I have little merch things for that available to you. And I also have like Kindle charms and all of that stuff. But I just kind of wanted to show you guys these because this is like my prized possession and I love it so much. Obviously, I always put like my shop link in the description. So if you ever want to support me and just get a cute little sticker or get some books for my shop, obviously that would make my whole world. There's also a few creators who I've sent my books to. One of them is Madison Kate. She has a The Great Undoing by Jessa Hastings. It's on her shelf if you look on her videos. And then also Eden, who's also one of my very favorite book talkers ever. She actually has the Beach Read copy. I think it's a version of Beach Read that I made before I actually made the whole set, so it's slightly different than the one that I sell now. But yeah, if you go in their videos, you can see my books on their shelf, which I think is so cute and fun. And then also Dylan Ward, I sent him a copy of A Little Life, which I just made for him, and then I also put that on my shop too. So I have lots of books and things available, so if you want to kind of support me in that way, that is also available to you. And every time I reread the book, I like go back and look at the covers I made. When I reread Book Lovers, I was like, oh, like I feel like it just, the aesthetic matches it so well. It's just so cute. And so I wanted to show you guys these two. So you know for sure that in April, you're gonna get a recap on so many good books that are releasing in April. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna film a video on reading my 3 most anticipated reads of the year, which is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, came out like 3 days ago. I don't even know what day it is, guys. Like when I tell you I've been in my bed from morning to night for the last full week, I mean it. I was taken out so hard by whatever terrible spring sickness inflicted every single person that I know. I also have like previous lung issues, which is why it really took me out. I ended up like in urgent care and like trying to figure out what was going on. Now I'm on every med to get this out of my system ever. Starting to feel a little better, but it really took me out. So this is the first time that I've like actually gotten up and been productive, which feels so good. But the fact that I get to wake up, revive from my literal illness, and have 3 new books to read this month that are like some of my favorite authors in the whole world. Are you kidding me? I'm so excited. So I think I'm gonna do I'm pretty sure, don't hold me to this, but I think probably in May you'll get this, which seems so far away. But because one of them is being released at the end of April, obviously I don't know how fast I'll read it, but there's 3 books coming out in April that I'm so excited about. Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Do I say that name right? Jimenez? I don't know. I can never say the inflection right. There's that one. Then there's Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. And then there's also The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings, which if you're not familiar with all of my favorite books in the whole world, Jessa Hastings is one of my favorite authors of all time. She's in my top 3 favorite authors of all time. I'm obsessed with her. And the fact that I get a new book about something totally different from her is so exciting. So I hope it lives up to the hype. I hear it's totally different than her normal books. So I'm scared. I'm afraid. But that is what is coming to you at some point soon. And then today I also spent some time updating my book journal. If you didn't watch my February reading wrap up on this channel, I talked about how Madison Kate Reads, who is a book talker, booktuber, my biggest inspiration. She's been my biggest inspiration on like getting passionate enough about books to like get on here and talk to you guys about them. She started a book journal, but she did it out of an old book. And I was like, that is so actually genius. So if you wanted to see like my beginnings of this, it's in my February reading wrap up video. And every month on my like wrap ups, I'm just gonna kind of show you like the progress that I make in this journal, and it's so much fun. And I had just had a lot of fun like doing this. I love doing like a little page for my favorite book of that month or whatever. So this page, I basically just like have like a little label system of like what star rating each book was. So for March, you see it filled out right there. And this is just like a physical way of like seeing how many books I've read so far. I've read 18 books this year. And then it also continues on the next page because who knows how ambitious I'll get. Then this is like my book of the year chart, kind of just like doing rankings. So March, my favorite book was Morningstar, obviously, because 5 stars is so good. Then this is my February and March reads page. I just kind of put all the little books that I read, all my star ratings, and then all of my stats down here of like how I read them, how many pages, how many books, what was my average star rating. And last month I hadn't really finished the February side, so this is a look at the February side because I just hadn't finished it by the time I made that video because I was working on all those other pages. And then this is so much fun. I love doing this so much. Like I'll look up like, you know, the favorites aesthetic and I'll like print out like a bunch of pictures for that. So this is my favorite series of February and March. I was gonna just do like Red Rising for February. I'm actually glad that I waited because then I just made a whole series page, but this is one of my favorite quotes. Honestly, don't even read it because it's a quote from Dark Age. It's not gonna spoil anything, but like, it was really cool to just read that and be like, dang, that's crazy. I mean, you can read it if you want. It's not a spoiler. Yeah, there's Darrow, love of my life. Yeah, I did like a whole cute thing for that. And then I did March honorable mentions, the favorites in Project Hail Mary. So I didn't have a ton of stuff to like say about these. And so I just did them on the same page. But I just have like a cute little, you know, things, little quotes from Project Hail Mary, little quotes from the favorites, and just like some aesthetic pictures of that. And then, yeah, I will just keep going in here and do April, May, you know, through the rest of the year. But I love it so much, and so thankful for Madison giving me that idea. Please check out her page. Hers is so cute. And yeah, so that's that for the reading journal. But thank you so much for bearing with my voice in this video. Thanks for listening to my book recommendations. Of course, I just love hanging out with you. I love this channel. I look forward to making content this entire week that I couldn't just hop on to my like TikTok and Booksta or whatever it's called and like just talk to you guys about what I was reading. Especially I was in the thick of my sickness while I was reading Dark Age, and I was like, this is so drama, like this is so dark and drama, and I just like lost my voice for a majority of the week, so getting on here and talking to you was just not an option. And that was just so sad because I love talking to you guys. So thanks for bearing with whatever is going on. I hope next time I post a video I won't be sounding like this, but I love you so much. Obviously there's tons of other places for us to connect, which that will be on the end screen. And then also I have everything always listed in the description: Goodreads, Fable, Instagram, TikTok. My users are Books with Soph Soul on Instagram and TikTok, and then my links to my Fable and my Goodreads are always going to be in the description, as well as my little Etsy shop if you ever want to support me on there. But again, you guys are amazing. I love you so much. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. Thanks for being here and supporting my goal of doing this full time by the end of the year, whether that's my small shop or doing booktube or whatever it's called. And yeah, let me know if you have any recommendations of things I should read based on what you see here, and if you think I'd like it. Let me know your thoughts on the books that I read this month. If you have read them, if you haven't read them, what your thoughts are. If you are adding them to your TBR, let me know what you're excited to read for April. I'm so excited about all the April releases, so if you're excited about the April releases, I would love to hear what you're most excited about. But yeah, I love you so much, and I will see you next time.